Alright, back at the shop. I'm going to show I finished the harvest yesterday, so today I'm going to show how that turned out. So, this is the brand new bin. Just some moist paper, semi-moist paper. I haven't checked it today to see how much evaporated overnight, but just like with the sand material, you should be able to squeeze it and get a little bit of moisture into your fingers. I'm not getting any, so we're gonna add a little bit of moisture to it. There's no worms in here yet, and I always wait a while. I just use a bottle to add a little bit of water, a spray bottle. It was a Windex bottle. I cleaned it out real good and been using this same bottle for forever. It don't spray very good, especially once it gets empty, but every day I'll have to add a little bit of moisture to this and stir it up a little bit. One of my screens from the other bin. Stir it around. So this was a 1 and maybe a quarter phone books of shredded paper. I used a micro shredder because a micro shredder the worms tend to get through it so much faster. If you use a regular shredder that shreds in long pieces, it seems like it takes like 10 times longer for them to work through that than the micro shredded paper. The micro shredded paper, they get through it so fast, but the long paper, it takes forever. So definitely, if you're going to use shredded paper in your bin, get yourself a micro shredder. I got mine on Amazon for like 30 bucks, and a very good investment if you're raising worms, because the worms really like paper. You know, as I've mentioned before, you gotta have food, and then you also gotta have carbons. You gotta have green food, plants, vegetables and such, and then some carbons. Carbons can be, any plant that's dead and yellow, dead leaves, dry grass, not fresh cut green grass, but old dry grass, hay, that kind of thing is carbons also. So that's the new bin. We'll keep the lid on the new bin to help hold the moisture in. And this I dumped. These are the worms that came from down there. I dumped them into here yesterday to give them a new home in what will end up being the lower bin. And we know this had a bunch of cucumber yesterday I added. See how they're doing. They're definitely eating. It's always important to note when you add food to your bin, especially if you're adding fresh fruit or fresh food that's not been frozen, that it's going to take a good day or two before the worms will even start eating it, because it's too green. They will only eat food that's dying. So sometimes it'll take a couple days for the food to start to decompose and the worms to start eating it. And you'll notice it seems like they don't eat anything the first couple days, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And what happens in that meantime is it starts to decay, so the worms decide to go after it, and then they eat it all real quick. So sometimes it'll take a day or two and then they'll start eating it. So this bin here will be the finished compost bin now. I emptied all the castings yesterday, and then I dumped this bin that had this material in it into this bin, and then started the new bin of paper in here. So now I'll probably let it sit another day, but then I'll set it up in here, and there's holes in the bottom, so the worms can just go right up through the bottom into this bin as they want to. And you know, within a month or so, most of the worms will be in there, and they'll be turning all that paper into castings, and I'll still feed in the bottom bin and the top bin for a couple weeks, just to make sure everybody's still eating. And then once all this paper turns to castings, or dirt, essentially, once the paper gets turned to dirt, then I'll start focusing on making sure all the worms are out of here, and I'll start using this only as a feeding bin. I won't feed any in here, and we'll start working there. It'll take, from this stage, I would say 2 months is how long I'll work it before I'll harvest these castings. And also, my garden is about done. I've got a gutter garden this year, so I've got some buckets that got some material in them, and I'll probably add some of that material to the paper in a couple weeks, maybe a week or so, just to give them another material to work with their paper. But the last bin I started, I used only paper, and they turned it all to dirt, and it all worked fine. So it's definitely a good way to start your bin, with just paper. And the material that it creates is a nice, fluffy, fibery, just a really cool material. So I definitely recommend starting the bin with the shredded paper. And a lot of the reason why is because it's kind of interesting to watch the bin go from paper to dirt as they work through the material. It's just kind of an interesting thing to watch, and they get through it pretty quick. So that's what I did yesterday, and now we're up to speed.